Hey Scream Team, I'm going to tell you a little bit now about what you're getting yourself in for if you decide to work the line for the haunted house. This again is a really important role. Now, as you can see, I'm over by essentially the Energy Building. Remember that a lot of people will be coming from the Horror Film Fest, and it's in this building back here. And one of the things that you really need to understand is that when we consider the line, it's kind of all the way to this building. You'll be walking back and forth a lot. We hope that we have a lot of people on Scream Team, and that means your job is a little bit easier. But if you're working the line, you can be doing one of the following things. Some of you actually want to perform, which means you're going to kind of be entertaining off to maybe the side of the path areas as people start going. Along this area, you'll also see some of the sign-in tables. So there'll also be people from Scream Team working at those tables to get people checked into the haunted house and give them their tickets. If you are working the line, essentially that means that you're going to go all the way from this path, and you're essentially just going to be making sure people go the right way. There's going to be some directional signs. The easiest way to get to the haunted house is to take this curve, okay? This is going to take everybody behind not only the SCLC building, but the Sciences building. So if you're working the line, you're going to be sort of coming back and forth quite a bit. Number one, you can be asking people who are waiting things like, do you have your ticket? Show me your tickets. Little things. You can be performing. Some of you, remember, if you're Scream Team, some of you won't have necessarily just the t-shirt on. Some of you want to be dressed up in costumes. That's awesome. Hopefully it'll keep people entertained. But depending on how long the line is, people may even be starting all the way back here, standing and waiting. The other place that they might come from, of course, is just one of the other exits of that exact same building. This is a shorter pathway, but we may have some people who join up with the line coming out from this area as well. Okay, so about here is really where we're sort of expecting your job to take over. We are assuming that the line, based on the line last year, will probably go all the way back this far, believe it or not. We literally had probably 175, 180 people come last year. And if you can imagine, this time, remember that we are out the back of the SCLC building. So as people follow this path, again, there are going to be some directional signs. And as you can see, we're coming up on the side of the Science building and the back of the SCLC building. You can tell from the railings and stuff there, right? So when you get to this sort of tree-ish area right here, this is where the end of that path happens, right? If you turn left, that's how people are entering the butcher shop. So now remember, the Haunted Forest is completely opposite direction. The Haunted Forest families are going to be entering from the front of the SCLC building. So as Scream Team, this is a good spot to be asking them to make sure they're going in the right direction. If people are going to the butcher shop, which is your area, you're pointing them this way. There'll be a sign that literally has an arrow that says butcher shop. If they're going to the Haunted Forest, direct them this way. Now this is sort of that long curvy path that extends behind the building and behind the library. So in other words, right here, if people are coming up this path, to the right is the Haunted Forest, and to the left is the butcher shop. That's you. But you still got to make sure that you're telling people where to go, because remember, a lot of people will want to go to both, and some people will only want to go to one or the other, which means now is the time. If people get in a line and they feel like they're in the wrong line, especially if they have waited, they're going to be really upset. And we would too, right? So if you're working the line, this is also going to be a really important part for you. As the railing starts, this is where we're going to have a couple of those goofy demonstrations, right? So this is where we're going to do the barf bag demonstration. If you're wondering where the microphone will be, the microphone and the speaker playing a little bit of music will be back here, sort of out the back of the Sciences building, under this tree right here and right by the railing. We're going to be doing a little demonstration, and if you're Scream Team and you work the line, which that's why I'm talking to you guys, this is one of the things you can do. This is going to be just a silly, goofy barf bag demonstration. We're going to hand people barf bags, and that way hopefully we will sort of entertain them, but also let them know that there are really serious smell effects inside. But that's another way to sort of keep them occupied while they're waiting in line. We don't want them to be bored. And likely, if we have a turnout like last year, This line will probably extend all the way back there. That's a lot, okay? This is going to be a really key area, this little path. Because if you're working the line, remember, some of you guys are going to perform in this little courtyard area. You're going to want to sort of go back in amongst the trees. You're also going to want to make sure that if you're somewhere right here, this could be kids and families, okay? So if you're working the Scream Team line, that's the butcher shop, that's a little bit more scary costumes. So one of the things that you got to be aware of is when you see a family go through and you're dressed as a zombie or a butcher or whatever, just kindly point them in the right direction. Try not to scare them if possible, okay? But as you go through here, if you're somebody that's in costume, you essentially can act and perform all the way this path here and all the way up to the back of the haunted house here, okay? If you're also coming towards the part of this line, remember that this is what we're considering the entrance. So people will essentially be along this railing. Hopefully there'll be a little bit of entertainment. Here's where some of the music will be happening, a little barf bag demonstration. And then they're gonna get to this spot right here at the top of these back stairs. That's where you're essentially gonna hand them off to whomever is working the top of the stairs. We start to consider this the ticket area. So as soon as they get here, there's gonna be somebody here taking tickets. So as they go down the stairs, we sort of consider them entering the haunted house at this point. The entrance is really important. And up until this point, you want to make sure that they're at least entertained, that they're in the right line, and that you direct them the right way. If you are a performer, even if you're scaring people, remember occasionally you're going to have to break character and you're going to have to direct people and tell them where to go. But the line, people, is really important. If you can imagine waiting at some of the cooler haunted houses in the area or around the country, people usually aren't bored in line. So we need a lot of people who are willing to perform, willing to talk to people, and willing really to just get people hyped up for entering the haunted house, okay? So that's a little bit about what you can expect if you work the line for the Scream Team. Thanks, guys.